flag team puts the flag up and takes the flag down almost every day. A little chilly out this morning, but we're going to do that. Just kind of a morning ceremony for us. Fourth graders get to participate in these leadership teams. So we do have a brand new flag today. Kind of a cool story. My neighbor is in charge of the flags at Camp Atterbury. So he just flew over fall break, took the Needham flag to Camp Atterbury. It was getting close to retirement age, and flew it over Camp Atterbury for a week, and then gave us a certificate. So that's going to be, we're a Purple Star School, which in the state of Indiana is connected with veterans, and we have a lot of military families here at Needham. Our location, I think, serves that purpose, and including some of our staff as well. So we take a lot of pride in that. So you guys can stay inside where it's nice and warm. Our flag team will bear the elements and go up and put this flag up here in just a minute, and then we'll start a tour led by our students. All right, I'll introduce Mason Thompson. He's going to start the tour. He'll speak loud and proud for you, so even those folks in the very back can hear. So Mason, take it away, welcoming us to Needham.
Good morning, my name is Mason Thompson. I'm going to be telling you a little bit about Needham. We have over 350 students. We have 24 teachers and 57 total adults at Needham. PE is one of the 4 related arts we do, 1 related art each day, and it rotates each week. In 4th grade, we do an annual kickball tournament versus SWEB. Now I will walk you to the 1st grade hallway. Follow me.
Good morning, my name is Lydia Roberts. 3 teachers in each grade, Miss Paris and Miss Wilhelm, are both brand new teachers this year. The kindergarten went to Appleworks in the fall, and 1st grade went to Piney Crease just last week. We have 2 Cub Academy pre-K classes, Miss Littell and Miss Bean. Miss Katie is in the hallway. She is our behavior helper. Miss Combs' office is in this hallway. She provides extra help for students in reading and math. I will take you to our next station outside the library.
Hello and welcome to the library. My name is Carolyn Baker. We recently had our book fair at the library. During regular weeks, students get to check out 2 books per week from the library. Our librarian is Mrs. Perry. Reading for Rascals is a program we use to reward students for reading 1 book per week. Last year, we had over 150 students earn the special field trip to Rascals and Landland. So far this year, we have celebrated Drug-Free Week and College Go Week. We learned about the importance of going to college or having a great career. Now I will take you to the 3rd and 4th grade hallway.
Hello, my name is Drake Outwood.
Hello, my name is Elma Grant.
We have a high ability class in each grade level, 1st through 4th. 4th graders are the leaders of the school. Teams include announcements, student council, pool team, flag team, etc.
STEM class is in this hallway, which is a part of the specials rotation. 4th grade does special field trips. We have already went to an Ag Day field trip. In October, we went to a Flat Rock overnight field trip. In the spring, we will go to an Indianapolis Indians baseball game. We will walk you to the 2nd grade hallway.
Hello, my name is Riley Brown.
Hello, my name is Ellie Min.
We have 3 teachers in 2nd grade and Title I art, music, and special ed programs are in this area. Miss Poulter's new to this year.
Miss Warner is our literacy coach. She helps teachers get better at reading. Miss Bontrager is our Title I interventionist. Teachers will use assessments from the beginning of the year to identify if any students need some extra help in any areas. Those students will come to Title I. Thank you for coming to Needham today. We appreciate you coming to our school and doing a tour today.
So next up, our Needham PTO. We have 2 of our 5 board members here. You heard about boards making decisions earlier. So we also have a 5-member board. And President Duquette and Fundraiser Brown are here. So just to let you talk a little bit about our PTO, events that we're doing, and how we get families involved in Needham.
Okay, well, this year on the PTO, it's kind of run the same as it has been in the previous years, even though Jamie's moved on to Custer Baker and bigger and better things. We just had our glow-a-thon, which did amazingly well. We raised over
$15,000.
Yep.
We had our event last week and it was very well attended.
Yeah, so maybe our kids can skate. Yeah, so we'll see about that. But also this year we're doing a dance, like a family dance in February. We'll have holiday night coming up with Santa. That's a free event for all students and their families. Basically it. We just raise money and put it right back in to the school and spoil our kids and teachers.
Teacher store, we did bagels for the teachers this week.
We did.
We have Santa shop coming up that we do every year for the kids. And that's a week-long event in December. We support the winter convocation that we do in December for the students. We'll have our carnival in the spring. What else?
Fourth grade celebration.
Fourth grade celebration, we support that.
If there's a party going on here, we did it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We did it.
And there's kind of twofold. It fits in, so our PTO is a separate entity in its fundraising component. So you guys are on 503C,
Yep.
is that right? So they're then able to spend that money without as many strings attached as if it was brought in from the school, passing through student hands, where then it would have to go into student activities and student money. So they're able to support the school in many different ways. It might be a piece of playground equipment or a bench. It might be the teacher store, so that's actually going to supplies and things that teachers need. I think we all got whiteboards this year, so every teacher got a little whiteboard kit with markers and erasers and cleaning solution. So they have just a lot more flexibility with that. So I think that's one of the great partnerships we do. All right, so our PTO, again, doing a lot of things. And what we also like to do, the partnership there with our other funds, our Title I Parent Involvement Fund, which we get from that federal grant Title I to include parents in our school, so we can partner up. We may buy books out of Title I, and then partner that with a book bingo night that kind of PTO organizes. They're the organizers of those events, and putting that emphasis behind the event. And then also like student activities. Last year, we paid an amount of money, about half, for the skating event in PE, then PTO helped and paid the other half. So that great partnership, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to afford some of those experiences for our kids. Flat Rock field trip. Just a couple of things. You give me the floor and I start talking. But it was the first time this has happened in the time I've been here. So we do Flat Rock. That's our fourth grade overnight experience. It started $60 a kid when 8 years ago. Well, as you can expect, it's not $60 a kid anymore. It's $90 a kid. That went up, I think, $15 over last year. And we have 72 kids. 3 kids didn't go, so we had 69 kids go. 12 of them couldn't pay. That's new for us here at Needham. That many kids, over $1,000 short in that field trip account to go on that experience. But that's definitely an experience worth going, and we're going to make sure it happens. PTO is able to step up and say, okay, what do you need? Let's make that happen. So that was another place where we partnered to offset that cost to make sure that happens. The other thing that I just wanted to share real quick is we walked around, I was talking to Mr. LaGrange as the kids presented this morning. They really only presented to me or new families that come in. Never such a large group, but I think it's pretty awesome that they're able to do that. I know that they practice at home with their dads and moms. But there are kids in that group that really couldn't read at all when they came into kindergarten and have struggled to learn to read over the course of the time or speak publicly at all. So for them to be able to do that, that's pretty cool. That is, those are the kids that were affected, I think affected the most by COVID because of their double experience. They were kindergartners when that happened, then they went home for a little bit, then they came back and they were in masks. What you also may have noticed is on our announcements, that little bit of a stutter or even that speech pattern is, it's evident. Because I thought, oh my goodness, did I happen to pick 10 kids for the announcement team? And they all are struggling with some of their speech sounds, every single one of them. And I attribute that to the experience they had learning their letters and sounds when they first came in. But they have compensated and worked hard to get where they are. And that group that was out there were the kids, I think, again, most affected by it. But they're sitting there, 95% of them passed that iRead test. And they're doing really, really well. And they're doing things like public speaking or talking on a PA, which is pretty awesome. Okay, I guess I'll field questions. Does anybody have questions about Needham or PTO or current things happening?
You all can come volunteer anytime you want. We'll send the sign up genius in your email. Okay.
November 13th is our pajama
Yep,
day.
see?
Oh,
Mr. Burley's
yes.
wearing pajamas because we hit our goal. That was what Mr. Burley has to wear footy pajamas to school.
Will he wear a tie with his footy pajamas?
That was a discussion, but no.
No!
I'm wearing a tie.
Yeah?
I will wear a tie. I just don't. I've never worn footy pajamas before. This is going to be a first time experience.
Good.
But I'm doing it for Needham. So I will talk about the best before they get here, because that's been probably the most significant change to our school this year. We're going to have them come down here in just a minute, Ms. Thomas and her 4 instructional assistants that are helping 7 kids in that classroom. That's an alternative ed space for the elementary school. We started from last year, kind of the carryover with 5 students in that classroom, and we've added 2 additional students to that classroom so far this year, 1 in August, 1 in September. So those students struggle the most to get regulated, self-regulate. They struggle the most when an adult is trying to help them regulate. Where it's extremely disruptive in the general ed classroom for their learning, and where it's getting in the way of their learning. It's stopping their learning, and it's also stopping their peers' learning because they're having to step out because the chair's being thrown or somebody's screaming or something like that. So we've modified that over what it has been the last couple of years, along with the help of Jen Scott and Don Phelps, Andrea Korick, and we changed the name. We made it the BEST program, so it also has a positive connotation right out of the gate. Behavior, emotional, support, and transition. Because ultimately the goal is to get them transitioned back into the classroom. And that's probably where I want to highlight it. So those 5 kids, plus the 2 new ones, have come over. And most of them are starting that transition process already. I'm a little surprised by that. During my time in Seymour as a principal, we had a very similar program, and it grew very quickly. So I had that knowledge in my background. But Brooke and her team are helping these students go through these processes and understand their and be aware of their feelings and their struggles and their strengths. And they're starting to push into these classrooms very successfully. We have 2 kindergartners. Ms. Brown, you get to work with them. And is it amazing? Do you want to just share a little bit about what
They're both in my small groups, and they come and they work and they get really excited to make new friends from kindergarten because they don't see them as much as the other students do, but now they've transitioned to going to lunch with us and they go to recess with us, and it's been great.
We try to put them in times that are successful. You think, oh, it's kind of unstructured at lunch or recess. but that is a time for peer interactions. They get a lot of opportunities to interact with peers, and we still structure kind of, okay, here's what we would expect you to do in this situation. They also still have help. They still have that friend, that adult friend, pretty close to them to help in case they do start to struggle. Our first grader, he's been in the first grade classroom most of the time he's been here, but then he's been almost, probably half of the day for the last couple of weeks in that classroom. At 9 weeks point was probably our biggest transition time. One of our third graders, newer third graders, is starting to transition more than the other. The other still struggles. He's doing the small group thing, but really not pushing into his class yet. And then our second grader, he's now doing his related arts, math block, he's high ability math. And then he spends like all morning with them, and then he transitions back into that classroom. So it's been a huge success, I would say, by the parameters set in place at this point, and the data we've collected. Our behaviors have decreased over the course of the time we've been here, since August, the beginning of August. Miss Brooke Thomas, she is the lead teacher in the classroom. We sometimes joke that Bess also stands for Brooke. And then Emily Shackstall, she's joined us. She was over at Earlywood, but has joined us this year. Sydney Mueller, Franklin all Franklin graduates. I should not leave that fact out. And Sydney was instructional assistant with us last year, and then has transitioned to this classroom this year, in a good way. And then Jenna Hull, and she was over at Webb last year, joined us this year in this classroom, and her sister also works here in third grade. So it's a family trip. So yeah. Do you want them to share anything, or do you want?
Why don't you start off as a lead teacher? Talk about what you do and how you kind of help kids transition to that next level.
Yeah. Okay. So our day-to-day kind of looks like a gen ed day, except for it's mostly small groups because there's only 7 kids in the room. We just work on social skills a lot, behavioral, emotional stuff with them. We try to walk them through the process when they are mad or upset, of kind of understanding their emotions and where they're going to go with those. And then we start to try to push them into classrooms. Their gen ed class, they're all assigned a gen ed classroom. As their behaviors start to kind of decrease, they get used to the school, we'll push them into those gen ed classrooms. We have 2 students that are in pretty much from 8 a.m. to 10:30 already. And then the rest of them just kind of go in periodically throughout the day for like maybe 15 minutes just to get used to it. And as they go on, we'll build that time up a little more, and hopefully they'll be in gen ed by the end of the school year.
So how does a student get to your class?
But they have to have an IEP. They have to be pretty much kind of out of hand in the gen ed setting as far as behaviorally, like throwing chairs, pretty aggressive students.
So one of the things that we're looking at, obviously, and Mr. Foley said, is trying to get 10 kids. That's kind of our maximum we're going to put in there. But it really is you know, when we bring 3 more kids in, then they disrupt the 7 that they have and what's going on. The other thing to notice, we have 3 outstanding people in that space. Who's RBT trained? Anybody in this class? I know you are.
I don't think
Any of you are. So one of the things that, like Emily coming from Earlywood, she was actually doing probably the version of best at Earlywood. And as you remember, we closed Earlywood classroom this year, transitioned it back to us, and then Earlywood's going to close here officially at the end of the year. But Emily came to us, and she was part of New Connections was the name of the class. But a lot of similarities, correct, in what you guys are doing here and what you were doing there?
very, very similar, yeah. I think the kiddos that we have now are definitely a lot less intense than the Earlywood kiddos. So we have the opportunity to kind of stop them and get a grip on what their behaviors are before going to somewhere like Earlywood. So it's nice to see like the level below Earlywood now.
So in our tiered structure, the gen ed classroom, and then best would be the next least restrictive environment, and then we would go to RISE, if you remember that, the RISE contract. And right now, we have 6 of our students at Rise out of the 15 spots available. And Rise, really, the target area is going to be similar to the best kids. So if they really were struggling here, Rise would be their next step. Dawn Phelps is really the person that kind of helps oversee all of it in terms of the behavior and making sure the data. So when someone calls Brooke and says, hey, I want my kid to go there, Brooke's like, what's the data, right? And Dawn's helping us understand that data and works on that space for us. So that we don't just get a whole bunch of kids coming in and that maybe don't fit or had a bad week or a bad couple of weeks. It really does take more than that in that journey. How do you ensure, because it's a K-4 program, how do you ensure that they're actually getting their academics?
We primarily do academics all day, but since it is a behavior class, it's kind of stop when there's a behavior, make sure that kid is understanding their emotions, kind of redirecting them and what they need to do, make sure they're completely regulated before we come back to academics. To make sure they are getting that academics in, like I said, we stop, and so when we come back, you go directly back to that spot that they were in academics. So instead of moving on and continuing with academics with the other student that they may be partnered with, we kind of stop, give them that chance to catch back up, and then continue on.
So I think about it in terms of like a one-room schoolhouse, right? That the kindergartner is not getting what the 4th grader is getting in terms of that. That's really why we're Brooke and our team come together to do this. And I know it's one of the areas we're looking at what curricular resources can we use to best fit this best class, because it is hard. Are you guys doing the literacy cadre activities in class? Are you doing OG and all the different things?
Yep, we do OG.
So talk about your literacy block a little bit.
So OG we do in the morning from 8 a.m. to like 8:45, sometimes till 9:20, depends on the day, depends on our moods and how we're going with the morning. But we really just start directly from the OG lessons, go all the way through, and then when we get to the kind of the SRS form where they're writing, we'll switch partners because that whole first half is pretty intense. Cards, they have to repeat things to you, visual blending, all of that stuff can get pretty rowdy sometimes. So we'll switch groups, and then they'll do the form with another teacher. That way they're seeing a different person, getting a different voice. They're not fighting with the same teacher the entire time. And then after that, we'll do maybe an activity. Sometimes we'll wait and do an activity when it's their independent work time to make sure they're kind of grasping that skill on their own without us sitting right next to each other. I think that's probably the hardest part, is really trying to see where they're at based on their level from their gen ed peers, because we're pretty much one-on-one with them the entire time. So it's kind of hard to see where they're at. So independent work time has been a huge help with that lately.
OG's Orton Gillingham.
Yes.
And it is a phonics-based program where the kids are learning their consonants or vowel sounds. And it's a very set pattern. And that's what's happening throughout the district in our K2 programs. And then for some of the 3rd graders, and probably some of the kids in their class, are missing that aspect. So that's why everybody is getting it. Biggest surprise, biggest joy. We'll start with Jenna and we'll walk through. Right, like, you gotta talk if you're here.
Biggest joy. When we have a good day.
All right.
Kids get really excited and they're really cute. Yeah. Take the win from the day.
Good.
I actually agree with Jenna. The biggest surprise is it's a lot calmer than I thought it would be. Biggest joy is actually seeing the progress that some of the kids are making and being able to see it in the classroom.
Yeah, I think what Sydney said, we really, I mean, what is this week? 11, 12 maybe, and we really are seeing the progress. Like, thinking back to the first couple of weeks, some of these kids don't even look the same, like don't even act the same. Their behaviors are totally different. They're able to go to a separate spot in the classroom to like regulate themselves, which in the first couple of weeks that was out of sight, out of mind. We couldn't see that happening. So it is cool to be able to see that progress already.
Any other, do you guys have any questions?
Do we have that in every building?
We do not.
Okay.
We brought all the elementaries here.
Okay.
CBIS has what they call the DEN, the Links program, and middle school has DEN, high school's got the alternative ed. That's our continuum.
So the kids in this building are from?
They're from all over, yes. I know we've got a couple Northwood kids.
Every place but Union.
Webb, every place but Union. And I will tell you that there is really a waiting list, I'll just tell you that. When we have kids that are close to being introduced back in here, and that's one of the concerns we have, is that how do we do that? And as Brooke said, they have to have an IEP, so there's got to be a case conference that actually says, you know what, this is the next least restrictive environment for them in terms of everything. They still follow the same rules, so like when Dylan said, Mr. Clee was saying, I'm sending a student home, well that counts as one of their 10 days of being out of school. So it's not that we have this free pass just because they're in this class in that space. But it's one of our strategic plan initiatives, that alternative setting. You know, I think it's doing a great job. And now the new connection's not available to us. And really, I think our kids are probably academically getting more than they got there, because New Connection had to deal with 6 corporations. They had to play with everybody to make sure that the kids were fitting in. Here, these are just Franklin kids as we move forward.